Hey guys, welcome to the second quarter. We made it through the first quarter. You guys have all made it through word processing activities. From what I can tell, a lot of you guys have become experts at word processing, so that's a great thing. We are moving on today to spreadsheets. And spreadsheets are my favorite thing to do. They're my favorite thing to teach and my favorite thing to play around with because they are a lot different than word processing, and we're going to talk about what those are today. And some of you have probably seen Spreadsheet program before. You might not have known that that's what it was called, but that's what we're going to investigate today. So we have Spreadsheet Activity number 1, and there's a little bit of introduction that needs to go into this as well. And I'm going to do that for you as well. So what is a spreadsheet? Well, if I open one up, you may or may not have seen something that looks like this before. So when you look at the screen, you can see that there are a lot of grid lines everywhere. And we're going to talk about what those mean throughout this lesson. So I'm going to go back to this Google Slides presentation that I have so that we can kind of talk a little bit about what Google Sheets are. Excuse me. So Google Sheets is the Google version of a spreadsheet program. It is a lot like Microsoft's Excel program, and we're going to be using the Sheets version just because it's better for us because it saves automatically and it's easier to get to because we all have Chromebooks. So to get to your Google Sheets, when you want to open a Google Sheets, it's a green little icon there, and it'll say Google Sheets. It's a little bit different than the blue Google Docs icon. And eventually we'll get to this Google Slides one as well. But Google Sheets is what we're going to be accessing. All right. Just talks about saving. They let you save to automatically, so you can access your documents from any computer. So, whether you do one on your school computer or you do one from a different computer, if you're logged into your Google account, it'll always save to your Google account, which is awesome because then you can get to it from anywhere. All right. Sharing, we're not really going to do. Google Drive, we've been using Google Drive. Everything that I put on Google Classroom gets saved automatically to your Google Drive. All right, so Google Sheets. These are some terminology words that you're going to need to know, and we'll kind of go through what those are, as we go through these slides. So the first thing is a row. So a row is a group of cells. So those little rectangular boxes that we saw in the grid lines, each one of those are called a cell. So a row is a group of cells that runs horizontally. And the rows are numerically labeled. So if you look on the left-hand side of the spreadsheet program, you'll see numbers that go down. A column is a group of cells that run vertically up and down. So the columns are alphabetically labeled. So you'll notice along the top of the spreadsheet, the letters, okay? Starting at A, going all the way to Z. If you have a spreadsheet that needs to go longer than Z, then it'll start with AA, AB, AC, and so on. It's almost infinite. I mean, there's no way that you're going to need all of those cells, but as big as you need it to be, it's not hard to do. So cells are the intersection of a row and a column. So when you have a column and a row, wherever they intersect, that little rectangle is called the cell. And the cells are identified by stating the intersecting column letter followed by the intersecting row number. For example, B2 is an example of a cell address. Okay, so we always name our cells letter first, number second. Okay, so B2, A3, G7, and so on. So this is kind of an example here. So a spreadsheet consists of columns and rows. The columns are vertical, the rows are horizontal. You can see here the blue row, okay, and then you can see the gray column. The intersection we can see right here is B2, all right? So letters indicate columns, numbers indicate rows. Pretty straightforward. We're going to be making a lot of charts or graphs. You know, we call them charts or graphs. This program, we call them charts. Okay, so charts are used to present information so that it can be quickly and easily understood. So we're taking data, which is usually in number form, and we're transferring into charts, which is a picture or a visual form. And these are things that we are familiar with from math class. We have bar and column charts. They show values of data and allow comparisons between categories. We have pie charts, which are always circular. They show values of data and allow a comparison to the whole, and the area of each slice represents a fraction of the whole. And then we have line charts that show the relationship between values. And they can be used to show the rate of change as well. So the steeper the line goes, the faster it's changing. The more shallow or not as steep the line goes, it's a slower change. So they show rates of change as well. And we're going to be doing activities that hit on every one of these, so you guys will become very familiar with them. These are the different types of charts that we're going to be investigating in the next few weeks. Obviously, columns and bar graphs. We call them columns or bar graphs. They're basically the same thing. And they can run up and down vertically like this, or we're going to be doing some where the columns run horizontally as well. It just depends on what the activity states. We have a line graph down here, so we can have multiple sets of data, and we can compare them all on the same graph. And then we have a pie graph. So the pie graph, again, usually represented circularly. You could have it, there's different versions of the chart, so you can kind of fancy them up and have it kind of look three-dimensional or two-dimensional. So these are the three main charts that we're going to be using the most. So what goes into a chart? And all of these things are parts of the charts that we're going to be creating, and they can all be edited and changed. All right, so the chart components. We always have a chart title. This is the title. We have our y-axis, which is always the vertical axis. We have our x-axis, which is always the horizontal axis. We have a legend, usually, and it will tell you which each one of these colors represents. So Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3. Then we have our categories. And then these are where we label our categories. So we always have to have a title on our x and y axes. All right, so far so good. So creating a chart, and I'm going to walk you through the steps to do this today. You always enter your data into the Google Sheet first. And, normally I would always start up here in cell A1, but it depends on what the instructions ask. So step number 2, once you have your data in there, you're going to select the charts, or you're going to select the data. Okay, so you would take your mouse and you would hold the button down and select all of these cells together. And then you would go up to Insert and Chart. And then there's also a shortcut that I'm going to show you guys as well. You're going to go to your chart editor, and I'm going to show you where the editor is, and that allows you to change the titles and things like that. It allows you to change the type of chart too, if you want a line chart versus a bar or column chart, or a pie graph or pie chart. There's different ways that you can do that. All right, so I'm going through this rather quickly. I did put a copy of this this presentation on the assignment as well, so you can go through a little more slowly if you need to. Chart title, always got to have a title in your chart. You can either click in the area where the title is, or I'm going to show you how to get to the chart editor as well. You'll notice the toolbar. It's pretty familiar. A lot of the same things you'll see on the Google Docs toolbar, with a few exceptions. The undo button is your friend. If you do something and mess up, hit the undo button and it'll kind of give you a fresh start to go back. These are different here, and we'll talk about those. You're going to have functions that you're going to need to deal with as well, and I'm going to be showing you how to use different functions for different assignments. All right. The menu bar is basically the same thing that we see on the Google Docs, and obviously there's going to be something a little bit different, but for the most part, it's going to be kind of familiar. We're going to learn what each one of these ones does as well. All right, so the main functions of the file, we have share, new, open, make a copy, download as, version history, move to, and print. These are the main ones that we're going to be using under File. And we've got our edit functions, undo, redo, which is basically, so we have shortcuts for these as well. Cut, copy, paste, delete cells, rows, and columns. A lot of these you can get to by just right-clicking if you don't already understand how to use the toolbar. The view, you can zoom in and zoom out. You can have the grid lines show up or not show up. You can have the formula bar show up or not show up. You can freeze columns and rows, and sometimes that's pretty useful. And we'll get to those functions as we move through the unit. Inserting, this again can be very useful if you are creating a chart and you are creating a spreadsheet and you need to insert an extra row or column or get rid of a column or merge cells together. You guys are familiar with merging cells when we were using the Google Docs applications. So we'll get through some of these. We won't get through all of these, but a lot of these you can just get to by right-clicking your mouse as well. So inserting rows and columns above and below a selected row or column. We're going to get to some of that. Inserting an image is a lot like we did. It's basically the exact same way that we insert an image when we use Google Docs. And since most of you know how to do that, then that's going to be pretty review for you. And of course, inserting charts, we are going to get to that today. Your chart editor, we're going to also get to that today as well, and I'm going to show you how to edit your chart. When you click on chart editor, it'll actually open up automatically on the right-hand side of your spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you how to get to that. Data tab, chart type, the data range, x-axis, the series, switch rows and columns. This is something that we will get to later on. Some of this stuff we're not really going to get to. The data range, chart type we will, but data range probably not. And then chart editor, the data tab, we may mess around with the data tab a little bit. Switching rows and columns, you can make it your XY axis turn into your X axis become your Y axis, and your Y axis become your X axis. Customizing, and these are all the different things that we can customize, and this all goes under your chart editor, and we'll go through some of these throughout the next few weeks. Fancying up your charts with colors and things like that, that's always something that, if you're creating a presentation and you want to make something look very pleasing, you can mess around with the colors, and I'll show you how to do some of that stuff. These are some things that we may or may not get to. Obviously, chart and titles and axes titles we will get to. These are different ways to customize the horizontal axis, vertical axis, your grid lines, those sorts of things. This is something very important that we're going to eventually get to, and it's functions that you're going to need, because a spreadsheet is basically used for numbers. And sometimes you need to find, use formulas, find the sum of things, find the average of things, and so on. All right, adding things up. I'm going to get to that. And this is kind of showing us a lot of stuff that we're going to be getting to, so I'm going to kind of rush through some of that. All right. Anyway, so let's stop here. And I will come back to this every once in a while, and we're going to get to the actual activity. All right, so spreadsheet activity number 1. So what I've done, guys, is these are Google Docs, and all the steps that you need to do for each one are in here. Some of these seriously will take you, once you know what you're doing, they might take you 10 minutes to do. There's a few of these activities that if we were in the classroom, we'd do 2 in a class because they're that easy and that short to do. All right, so what are we going to do here? We are going to create a column chart, and it is called our favorite treat column chart. So you're going to learn how to create a column chart. You're going to change the alignment in the spreadsheet. These are all the things that we are going to do, and this is the data that we are going to be using as well. Notice that we are going to be starting off in cell A1 and cells B1. So A1 through A5, B1 through B5. So favorite treats, number of votes. What you guys need to do is once you open yours up, you probably want to split your screen like a lot of us do, and I will split my screen here, and I will put my activity right over here. So what we want to do here is type in favorite treats. Now, if you need to make your cell wider, you simply go up in between the letters, hold the button down, and you can make it wider or narrower. It's up to you. The same goes with your rows. So columns and rows can be changed. Number of votes. This one here, I'm going to make a little bit wider. There we go. Type things exactly as you see them, capital letters and everything. Chips, cookies, and pizza. Oh. We want to put the exact same numbers that the example has in it. And there is our data. So we have all of our data in here. So if we look up, I kind of skipped some steps here, guys. So it says here, Mr. Slack recently surveyed students in his computer classes. He asked them several questions. Widen columns A and B. I showed you how to do that. Now we want to center align the cells, the contents of all cells. Okay, and we do that like we do in Google Docs. So if I go back, I can I can select all of the cells. And because I can't see the center thing right now, I got to go to the 3 dots. And here is my alignment. So I want to go to center align. And there we go. So now it looks exactly like this one here. All right. If we want to select cells A1 through B5. So now that we have our data, we need to tell the computer what data to use to create our chart. All right, so if you look at the instructions, we're going to go into cell A1, hold the button down, and we're going to kind of go on an angle until we get down to B5. And that's going to select all the data, including the titles. You're going to see why that's important to do as well. And then we're going to go to the Insert Chart button, and we're going to find out where the Insert Chart button is, and it looks like this. And we're going to go to Insert Chart, and we are going to select the chart that we want, and it's going to be a bar chart. Once we've done that, you click on the 3 dots in the top right of the chart, and you can go to the Edit Chart. And that allows you to you go to Customize, click on Chart and Axes Titles, and then you can change the title to what you need it to be. It needs to say Favorite Treats. Yours should look exactly like this when you are done. And I'm going to kind of walk you through the steps here. So I'm going to drag this over here. And what did I do here? Let's minimize this, and I want to maximize this so that I can show you what we're doing here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit too, just so you can see a little bit better. All right, so if you look here at the toolbar, if you scroll all the way over to the side here, this is the Charts Insert button, okay? You can also get to it by going to Insert Chart from here, all right? Now, if I click the Chart button right now, nothing happens. Okay, it says there's no data here. And the reason that it says that there's no data is because I haven't selected the data. So this isn't going to give us what we want. So I'm going to hit the undo button. And now I want to hold the button down in cell A1, and I want to select all the data from A1 down to B5. Now I'm going to zoom out because the chart will show up. And I'm going to go to the Insert Chart button. Now, we don't want a pie chart. We want a bar chart, okay? The data in this one would just be better represented through a bar chart. So how do we change that? We go up here where it says pie chart. We click on it, and here is the bar chart, or the column chart, I'm sorry. The one that's horizontal, they call bar chart. The one that's vertical, they call a column chart. So let's click on column chart, and it creates a column chart instantly. And it's even labeled because we have the favorite treats and number of votes here. That shows up right here in our on our X and Y axes. So you can also grab this and move it down. So I'm going to put it under the data. All right, and this is not the title we want. We want the title to say favorite treats. So I believe, yeah. So this needs to just say favorite treats. So if I double click on it, it opens this up. I can actually change it right up here. Like that. If I want it centered, which I do, If I go over here to the right-hand side, title format, I can go ahead and hit the center button right here, and there we go. That's it. That's how you create a column chart using the data that's already there. Now here's the cool thing. Let's say I wanted to change the data. Let's say suddenly 10 more people voted. So we need to change this 12 and add 10 to it so it becomes 22. Watch what happens if you look right here where the pizza column is. When I change this to 22, watch what happens. I hit enter, boom, it makes it bigger. So this is kind of like live data. You change it back to 12, it puts it back small. All right. So this is an intro. This is a very basic column chart. This is very easy to do. You shouldn't have any problems with this whatsoever. So good luck and turn it in when it's done.